This is CNN, a network of Turner Broadcasting System.
What's up, guys? Your boy Benny. Massive news broke today of the ABC News anchors being irreparably biased against Donald Trump in their debate moderation. Here from Lindsay Davis herself, Kamala Harris's sorority sister and Yaya twin, saying effectively that she only planned to fact check Trump. And they did so, wrongly. They had multiple false and fake fact checks that have been proven out, yet Kamala Harris was able to repeat multiple lies about Donald Trump that even Snopes have said are lies and are hoaxes, and they, not a peep out of them. People are getting sick of this behavior. People are getting disgusted at these two. These two are just like the most recent examples of two individuals who think that they're running for office. This is what I think is very interesting. The two of these jackwagons have every right to quit their jobs, and I hope they do, and then decide to run for office. And then we'll be able to hear them. We'll be able to hear them at a debate stage. But while you're a news anchor, it's your job to ask a question and then shut the F up, all right? The American people are smart enough to discern what is a fact, what is not. The candidate who is opposing Donald Trump, Kamala Harris in this case, or Joe Biden, had better be good enough to like bring their own set of facts or bring their own arguments. And that's what you call a debate. People are like, I have had a belly full of moderators and anchors coming through and feeling like it's their jobs to debate the actual candidates. And that's what we saw finally boil over today on CNN with Dana Bash, who is a just absolute and total humiliation to her profession. She's been she's been a vicious attack dog pit bull against JD Vance in multiple interviews, and today was no different. JD Vance, to his credit, goes on these shows and speaks with these anchors. I think it's regularly entertaining. But you'll notice that when Dana Bash does an interview with Kamala Harris, she doesn't interrupt her. She doesn't fact check her. She doesn't froth at the mouth and start biting at her ankles like she does with JD Vance. And JD Vance finally called her out on it, even including the multiple choice questions that she asked. So famously, when Dana Bash interviewed Kamala Harris, she asked multiple choice questions. She said, okay, why do you do this? Here's your three possible answers. This is how rigged the entire system is, ladies and gentlemen. JD Vance called her out. Listen to
me questions and then let me answer them, or would you like to debate me on these topics? I noticed that when you had Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, you gave them multiple choice answers to the questions that you asked, and you allowed them to answer the questions. I'm happy to be here to talk about policy, but if you're going to interrupt me every single time that I open my mouth, then why am I even doing this? So please ask a question, and I'd ask you to be polite enough to let me answer it.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well done, JD Vance. You know, I think there's no such thing as a perfect vice presidential selection. Some people wanted other candidates to be chosen. Then you see moments like this, and you see how well and composed JD Vance is, and you're like, man, this guy was a great pick. He ends Dana Bash's career live on CNN. This is good. This has done numbers, man. 21,000 reposts. Holy smokes. 99,000 likes. Good. Goodness gracious. Hit him with the multiple choice. It's great. Outstanding, JD Vance, says Mark Levin. JD Vance just committed a homicide on live television. You're going to give the media any time. This is how you handle him. JD Vance put on an absolute clinic here. This man is cold-blooded. This clip going, doing total complete numbers. John Jr. saying amazing compilation of JD Vance destroying 3 different leftist Sunday shows today. There is nobody better at embarrassing the fake news. This entire thing, you'll see what I'm talking about. Well, good. We'll play you the entire thing in just a moment. Not sure CNN is going to keep inviting JD Vance on after he seems to run circles around their journalists. That's right. After spending 5 minutes trying to blame him for reported threats in Springfield, Ohio, Vance leaves Dana Bash stammering. And of course, how she would be treating Kamala Harris. Holy S, JD Vance absolutely embarrasses Dana Bash on live TV. Everybody sharing this clip. Bill Ackman as well, who's like a left-wing billionaire. I credit JD Vance and real Donald Trump for raising alarm bells about the impact of the administration's misguided immigration policies in Springfield, Ohio. The MSM has been belittled belittling and discounting the community's concerns. This is not journalism. This is political advocacy on the behalf of a campaign at the expense of truth. Good for him. Good for him. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here is JD Vance and his exchange with Dana Bash that led to this viral clip. JD Vance doing God's work here. Go.
First of all, what's putting the residents of Springfield at risk, which was a town completely ignored by the American media until Donald Trump and I started surfacing some of these concerns, is that they can't afford housing, they can't afford health care. The schools have been overwhelmed, the hospitals have been overwhelmed, and they're overwhelmed because Kamala Harris allowed 20,000 Haitian migrants to get dropped into a small Ohio town of about 40,000 people, and it's completely overwhelmed the services. Now, you ask, why have I talked about some of the things that I've been talking about? Let me just say this. My constituents have brought approximately a dozen separate concerns to me. 10 of them are verifiable and confirmable, and a couple of them I talk about because my constituents are telling me firsthand that they're seeing these things. So I have two options, Dana. I can ignore them, which is what the American media has done for years to this community, or I can actually talk about what people are telling me. And of course, many of the things that the media says are completely baseless have since been confirmed. For example, I was told, Dana, that by the American media that it was baseless that migrants were capturing the geese from the local park pond and eating them. And yet there are 911 calls from well before this ever became a viral sensation of people complaining about that exact thing happening. So my attitude is listen to my constituents. Sometimes they're going to say things that people don't like, but they're saying things that people don't like because their town has been overwhelmed, and it's my job to try to fight for them and to protect them. Kamala Harris opened the border, and now these people are suffering. That's what I'm focused on, Dana.
Senator, I have to go through several things that you just said. First of all, the Clark County Sheriff and the Ohio Department of Natural Resources reviewed 11 months of 911 calls. They only identified 2 instances of people alleging Haitians were taking geese out of parks. They found 0 evidence to substantiate those claims. Also, other evidence that you have talked about, even you've retweeted alleged evidence, are unsourced social media videos from a different city, apparently no connection to Haitians. And this is from a conservative activist who offered a $5,000 reward for such things. And then going just backly to the schools and the hospitals and so forth being overwhelmed, nobody is disputing that the town of Springfield, Ohio, needs help. But you're not just a bystander. You're the senator from Ohio. So instead of saying things that are wrong and actually causing the hospitals, the schools, the government buildings to be evacuated because of bomb threats, because of the cats and dogs thing, why not actually be constructive in helping to better integrate them into the community? Because there are a lot of employers there who say that the Haitian workers are helping fill jobs that they need desperately filled.
Dana, first of all, let me just respond to a couple of things that you said, but I want to start with something you said, which I think is frankly disgusting and is more appropriate for a Democratic propagandist than it is for an American journalist. There is nothing that I have said that has led to threats against these hospitals. These hospitals, the bomb threats and so forth, it's disgusting. The violence is disgusting. We condemn it. We condemn all violence.
Senator, this happened after you and President Trump were on the debate stage, said that cats and dogs were being eaten.
You asked a question, Dana, and I'm going to go ahead and answer it. What we have said is that this town has suffered terribly under the policies of Kamala Harris. Now, you just accused me of inciting violence against the community when all that I've done is surface the complaints of my constituents, people who are suffering because of Kamala Harris's policies. Are we not allowed to talk about these problems because some psychopaths are threatening violence? We can condemn the violence on the one hand, but also talk about the terrible consequences of Kamala Harris's open border on the other hand. Now, let me just fact check a couple of other things that you said, Dana, because it's important. You said that all of these migrants are in the country legally. They're in the country through what's called temporary protective status.
Right.
That is when Kamala Harris waved a magic amnesty wand, taking people and giving them legal status. That is not to say that they're here legally. That is a terrible indictment of her amnesty policies that have further opened the border and further caused terrible migration into this country.
You might not agree with the policy, and obviously you don't, which is totally fair and legitimate. There are policy disagreements all the time. But the fact is it is the law because President Biden and Vice President Harris are. But I don't want to frankly go down this conversation about policy
Dana,
because
you made a point. You don't. I agree. You don't want to talk about policy.
No,
Dana,
what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about
instead of about the fact,
Senator,
that
it was
Harris,
your distraction.
Dana, granted amnesty.
You were the one who started
level.
talking about eating dogs and cats.
Level.
You were the one who brought this
my
up.
Constituents
the president
were the
said
ones
it to
who talked
60
about eating
million
dog and
people.
cats, and I talked about it because you were ignoring this community. My constituents talked about it.
Have you been
it's
to
my
Springfield?
responsibility to surface their concerns when the American media
Have you been to
ignores it.
Springfield?
Dana, I've been to Springfield probably 100 times in my life.
How about
I've taken my
recently,
children
since
to
you've
get
heard
ice
this?
cream at Young's Jersey Dairy.
Have you heard recently since you've gotten these calls?
Have I been in the last 4 days?
No,
I'm
talking
talking been in
about
the last 4 days, but I've
since
talked
you've
to a lot
gotten
of
these
people
calls
in
from the
Springfield, Dana,
constituents.
and they're telling me this stuff is happening. Dana, would you like to ask me questions and then let me answer them, or would you like to debate me on these topics? I noticed that when you had Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, you gave them multiple choice answers to the questions that you asked, and you allowed them to answer the questions. I'm happy to be here to talk about policy, but if you're going to interrupt me every single time that I open my mouth, then why am I even doing this? So please ask a question, and I'd ask you to be polite enough to let me answer it.
Yes, I am, and I think that if Kamala Harris and Tim Walz were making unsubstantiated claims that had racist undertones about people eating dogs and cats, and they didn't answer the questions about that, then I would have similar interactions with them. As you know, I am very grateful that you come on the show, as I am for other Republicans. But this is something that you're hearing from constituents. I did a lot of reporting. I talked to people in Ohio over the weekend, and they're really worried about these claims.